Yeah. I've got a post that is exploding on LinkedIn.
What?
And it's all about a very bizarre phone call I had with a job seeker.
Okay.
And it's a conversation that I wasn't planning on posting about, but it haunted me.
Okay.
So here we go.
I'm ready.
This is what happened. So the phone rings, and oddly enough, it's not someone who wants a LinkedIn profile or resume or branding material or anything like that. It was a job seeker who said, "Donna, I've got this really unorthodox approach to job search, and I think you need to hear about it." And I'm like,
Okay.
"All right. I mean, shoot, I'm all ears. Like, tell me about this unorthodox approach." And he says, "So what I've done, Donna, is I'm doing something totally different. I decided to create a fake LinkedIn account.
Okay.
And I've been building this LinkedIn account up, and I posted a job off this LinkedIn account. I created a job
Yeah.
post. And I made this job posting, my perfect job. This is like the job that I want to be doing, that I want to get hired for, that I'm having such a strong time, such a struggle finding. So I created off this fake account, this fake job post, and I sat back and I waited. And all of my competitors found the job post and applied. And he says, so now I know who I've been up against. Who are the people who want the job that I want?
Yeah.
So I researched all of them, and I found that most of them are currently working. So I reached out to their employer, I reached out to the HR, I reached out to the recruiting team, and I said, look, if this person's job, if they vacate, know that I'm really interested in what they do. And
Yeah.
then this is
Yeah.
what he tells me. And then I take a screenshot of the application and I send it to the boss and let them know that they're looking. He says, and now I'm sitting back and I'm just waiting for my phone to ring.
This is the dumbest strategy ever.
It's the most evil strategy ever. It's the most evil strat. Oh my God. I was like, my skin was crawling.
What a
My
waste of
skin was
time.
crawling.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing that I like about it is the idea of seeing where they're working, because I think that could be advantageous to knowing, like, okay, these are some companies I haven't heard of. These are some in positions I haven't heard of. But if you start sending stuff to I don't know. I can't see that going
Well,
anywhere.
it's almost like it's just a person who's lacking empathy and who's looking at this in like the most dog eat dog type of situation, that he's out there sabotaging. So he's sabotaging the people that he sees as his competitors, as his enemies.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is, just because you're looking doesn't mean like your boss is going to fire you, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
if anything, he very well may have just gotten these people raises because
Well, but he has to expose who he is when he's reaching out to the boss. I can't imagine employers
well,
like, you
he
know
said it
what?
was anonymous. It was an
Oh,
anonymous
okay.
email.
But the
So
but the one email would have to be where he said, I want you to consider me if anything opens up.
yeah, he said I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember, but he said he had reached out and was like, hey, if anything happens, like I am really interested in this role. And if that person happens to leave,
Yeah.
know that I'm here. So
A lot of work. I guess, well,
well, yeah,
the
but
good, go ahead.
I was gonna say a lot of work. Like,
Yeah.
why not just do the nice thing?
I was gonna say, yeah, that's what I mean.
And not commit, cybercrime.
It could, yeah, that's a kind of a, I mean, if he's not an employer, can he do that? I mean, maybe. I mean, it's certainly against LinkedIn's terms to even create a different profile, like a fake profile. So you're kind of starting off on that. But I think that's the key is you can either put all of your energy, we know this, like into tearing other people down in any way or
Yeah.
sabotaging, or you can put all of your energy into advocating for yourself and getting hired. And I think it takes a lot of energy to do that. That is not something that can be done, even if they can explain it in a short message. That is not something that is easy to do. Because you got to wait for the people to come in, you got to reach out, you got to hope that you kind of keep everything secret and they don't actually find out it was you that sabotaged them when you reach out to expose who you are. I mean, why not just go after and start calling these employers right? And saying how much you want to work there, period.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe even get informational interviews with these people
well,
that you think are your, competitor or enemy. Maybe they can help you because they know of a
yeah.
true official opening somewhere.
The
It,
competition, I think people I actually think people need to get more competitive in a
Mhm.
healthy way, because I think competitive drive is good. Like when you're
Yeah,
thinking about getting hired, if you have that competitive drive or just drive in general, it's going to push you to be the best candidate, because you do have to beat other people out. Like you can't
yeah,
ignore that. But we all know the best competitors, the ones that shake hands after or whatever, and they want the other person to do, not to be
yeah,
sabotaged. They want the other person to be able to perform, but they want their performance to be better.
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, you didn't really win.
Yeah, and I often say that too with resumes. When people come to us, it's like, is this truly a competitive resume? Like,
Yeah.
you have to recognize this resume is going up against other resumes. We want to make sure that yours
Yeah.
is just, it's going to blow everyone out of the water because you have the quantifiable accomplishments. You are, more qualified and clearly more focused on exactly what you want and aligned perfectly to the role. Like
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think competition is important here,
Yeah.
but you don't want to. That was just I was shocked.
Your energy, everything that you do in a job search is finite. I'm sure you have to tell people all the time, like, where are you putting your efforts? Like, if you're putting your efforts just reading through postings and thinking about how you probably won't get the job, and like, where are you spending your hours? If all your hours are reading through postings and talking yourself out of applying, you're self-selecting out. But if you start using those hours to actually set up informational reviews, reach out to people, whatever, it's just a shift in what you're using your time for. Is
Yeah.
going to be positive or negative.
But the other thing that I think that story highlights is it's tough out there.
Yeah.
It's tough and people are getting desperate. Now, I don't think all desperate people would do what he did. I think that has a lot more to do with like, being a psychopath. But I do think people are getting desperate and they're getting
Yeah.
scared,
Yeah.
and like what advice do you say? Like, yeah, you've been in the job search a long time, and yes, it's a little grim, but something will open. You will find it, but like you said, you've got to do the right work. You've got to, you know, keep moving forward,
Keep going. Yeah.
and you have to, in the face of all of that, you have to still remain empowered and know your value. Because I think that's a part that a lot of people struggle with is
Yeah.
they've been looking for so long and they've been shot down, and they start to doubt and they start to look with more of a scarcity mindset. So, like, how do you keep that mindset strong and empowered and, forward motivated?
I think, I see people react in two ways. Maybe you're similar or different, and this is simplifying, but I see, people when they see how tough the job market is, they either get depressed, they're really depressed or frustrated, sometimes both. But when they get kind of depressed, they start to shut down and they stop activity. And so their activity slowly lowers over time to the point, and then they're getting less feedback, less calls, et cetera. They stop targeting the resume as well. And sometimes without even knowing it. I mean, this has happened to me. Like the activity just goes a little bit lower, because rejection can do that to you in general.
Yeah.
Just a little bit less activity, a little bit less, because it doesn't hurt as much. You didn't invest as much time. And those people shut down altogether. And then some of them, and I'm sure you've had these conversations too, they're like, oh, this, you try to help them. This sounds good, but I don't know. I'm just going to kind of wait around for something to happen. Like they, they just get into total waiting mode,
Yeah.
and they get used to it. They get used to being on unemployment, or they get used to being in the part-time position, or they get used to being whatever they're at. And that's, you can't break through with that. But then there's people that get angry and are frustrated, like this, maybe don't go full psychopath mode, but they're like, this is somebody else's fault, right? This is, and there's going to be truth to the economy or certain changes or whatever. But if you kind of give away your control when you do that, right? Because then you can't control that. So you got to focus on your circle of influence. If you blame somebody else, you can be competitive and let that drive you. I'd actually rather the person be a little bit more frustrated than depressed, because at least their activity might still
Yeah.
be higher and they can be doing stuff,
Mhm.
but they'll start blaming anyone. I mean, you probably have people that will blame you, right? I should get hired because of this, or you didn't do it, or whatever. But if they do that, they don't figure out what they could have done better, that they could actually control. They're just thinking everybody else or everything else is in control.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard position to be in. But I think it's also worth noting it's a position you're going to be in again and again and again.
Yeah.
We don't live in the time of these 30-year tenures at companies. And even if you could stay 30 years at a company, you probably shouldn't. There's other
No.
things out there. And I think we have to recognize that this is a skill set that we've got to get good at. We got to figure it out. And I think another thing, Isaiah, since we're talking about this, is when you think of, like just cold outreach, like sending out like a marketing letter, in the mail, some, an old fashioned type of technique,
Yeah.
they would cheer if they had a 3% return.
Yeah.
Like
True.
3% was like, we're really kicking it. This
Yeah.
is
For cold
amazing.
reach out, for sure.
And I think in some ways, job search is similar. I think we have this idea like, oh, I'll put out my resume and I'll get a job. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll put out 3 resumes and that'll be great.
Right.
We've got to change people's mindset that it takes a little bit more than that.
Anchoring is powerful. I mean, I think what happened a couple of years ago screwed everybody up mentally because you could walk out in the street and get like 4 job offers. I mean,
Mhm.
there was nobody that was in a hurry to go back to work. Um, I mean, it was crazy. Like I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Whatever, like 2 years ago, even a year ago compared to now. And so to go back to reality, to kind of go back to where it was, I would say 2018, 2019
Yeah.
to where it is now.
Well, look, that's a really good point, Isaiah.
Yeah.
That's a really strong point, which is this truly heck right now? Or is it heck because we're looking at it from a different vantage point, which is, hey, it was a free for all just 2 years ago. Really, if you sort of overlay it with 2018, 2019, this is kind of normal.
People can't go back 5 years though. It's too hard. Like you have people that are coming out. I mean, it really is like uh, if you, people can understand it better with money, right? So if you're making, let's say you have somebody making 150 and they have an employer say, hey, we're going to make 120 now. You can't mentally handle that. And employers know that. So they don't actually ever decrease. They just cut the people because they know that nobody can go back in terms of salary. And
Mhm.
whether that's right or wrong, I'm not saying anything about which is better or worse, but I'm just saying all of us can imagine that if we were at a certain level of pay and then you go down, it's like an existential
Oh,
crisis. Like you
yeah.
feel like you're dying because we just had that such a big need for growth. So you can't, so if you go down from, I have all this activity, I can't tell you how many people I talk to, they're like, I don't get it. I was in the job market a couple of years ago. I sent some resumes, had all these different interviews, got hired, and now they're laid off because, lots of layoffs, especially depending on the sector, especially, biotech, et cetera. And they're saying now I can't get anybody. I mean, I get silence or I get automated rejections,
Yeah.
and that's it. And you brought up a good point on resumes. You have to be so much more competitive because everybody has, right. And we've
Mhm.
talked about this before. Everybody has like an AI level resume, so you could just put it into AI, Chat GPT pops it out.
Mhm.
You're at the 80% level. So you got to be so much better today. They're not just handing out, they're just handing out these high level jobs.
How are you going to separate yourself? How are you going to be noticed? How are you going to be seen in this new reality? I went to an executive meetup yesterday, and we did a round table talking about LinkedIn, talking about job search, and it was so good to get out and see people, shake
Yeah.
hands with people. And I think it in some ways since the pandemic, we've really cloistered ourselves. And I think that's something that can really separate you,
Yeah.
to get out and see people and to say, yeah, hey, I might work from home now, or I'm in hybrid mode, but really get yourself out there amongst real people.
Yeah. Whoever
That's
does the least
important.
lazy thing is going to get ahead. I mean, because it's the barrier to entry, right? So if it's harder to get up and go out, spend money on whatever, Uber fare to go to a location for a networking. Most people don't. It's because it's so easy. I mean, for me, even I feel the pull to just, oh, I can just do this online or whatever. But if you do something in person at a higher level, if I'm trying to get hired, I'm like, how can I differentiate myself? Just just get in touch with people. I think with all this AI stuff, we're going to get to a point where resumes do nothing. You can't do because they're all the same. Anybody can put
Yeah.
out a hyper targeted resume with AI as it gets better.
But we've talked about what's the difference though. The difference is quantifiable accomplishments.
Yeah.
Right? It's having that vision and knowing what really matters because it's no longer going to be fluffy words that just
Yeah.
regurgitate a job description. They're going to get smart. Recruiters are going to get smart. They're already smart,
Well,
but they're going to see through it. They're going to see through it. And the only way, if we're going to use that resume,
yeah.
you know, you've got to be able to say it's no longer just reiterating, a job description saying, oh yeah, I'm good at all these things. You're going to have cold, hard proof with
And pitch.
numbers.
Yeah. You got to
And
pitch
yeah,
yourself hard.
yeah.
You're to say like this, you'll have to which means you'll have to just study deeper. You have to know exactly what benefit they want. And you'll have
Mhm.
to say, like, I can give you this benefit and here's how.
Yeah.
Not
And this
here's
is how I
everything
did
you
it in the past.
yeah, yeah.
And this is the results we saw then. And
But
yeah,
direct. But it has to be direct.
direct.
And then you got to reach, yeah, you're gonna have to talk to more people. I think you're just gonna have to reach out. And it can't even be the craziest thing with LinkedIn is just how easy people can send AI messages. You don't even know if the person is talking to you on Messenger because you see the little, just from this message with an AI. So employers, they're going to answer less and less when it
Mhm.
comes to an actual text message. They're going to be answering less, period.
I
And
agree.
copywriting, as we would call it, is going to be more and more important. So like, can you write something where the hiring manager actually sees me like, this has got to be a human. Like who would write, how would they know to say this? They mentioned something exactly on my profile or something that I posted yesterday. And they did like a little fun insight.
Yeah, but even that, they've
I know.
got AI
Yeah.
that's so smart that they're saying, "Hey, I saw this that you wrote an article about this, Donna, or I saw that you put like
Yeah.
no, they have
It's
some sort of,
tougher.
AI guy, AI scan that's making those connections. It's going to get really interesting to see how
It's gonna force networking. Like it's gonna force people to have to whatever, talk on the phone, Zoom, as long as that stuff can't be done. I think just more and more you're gonna have to elevate the technology to where it's more of a personal interaction.
yeah, I think we're going to get hyper local. That might be the real
Yeah.
answer where, until you really see and talk to someone and you see them, that's going to be the big differentiator.
Great.
Well, this was a
Good.
fun call. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Isaiah.
that's crazy. I'm looking at the LinkedIn profile. Yeah, of what you put, deeply disturbing. I love that you shared that. That is crazy. What a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a let's just call it a cautionary tale.
Cautionary tale. That's right. All right.
All right.
Good.
See you next week.